Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Breakdown with Bethany. I'm Bethany Braun-Silva, and today my guest is actress and new mom, Ashley Greene. Ashley welcomed her daughter, Kingsley, about 4 months ago, but she's already doing so much in the way of supporting new moms. In fact, she's holding an Ask Me Anything on February 8th, so be sure to listen to this podcast to get more details on that. She's also so open and vulnerable about her postpartum journey, so I really can't wait for you guys to hear this amazing conversation. Take a listen. Ashley, thank you so much for joining because you're sort of like really in the thick of it right now. Like just what is it, 4 months postpartum? Is that right?
4 months, yeah, which I kind of feel like listen, it's still hard, but there definitely is this like light at the end of the tunnel that I feel like happens around 4 months. The first 3 months was brutal. It's a lot for a first-time mom.
My kids are 10 and 7, so I'm sort of out of that newborn stage, but just like the idea of you putting on makeup, sitting in front of a camera, I give you so much credit. But I wanted to also check in, like, how's it going? Because it is also, like you said, is a brutal time.
It's good. The nice thing is that I'm surrounded by friends who are either like in a similar fit, like I have a friend whose baby's a week older than mine, or someone has like a 1 or 2 year old or has just been through it. So it was kind of nice to have that support at least. And when I finally made the decision to start talking about how difficult it was for me, I was met with open arms. I feel like now we're kind of finally starting to really talk about these things and what the fourth trimester is. But yeah, I mean, there's just not like, I feel like during that time, like every time I thought that I had something figured out, I would get a curveball. Like it's just like the land of curveballs right now is what I'm at. But it's also, how it is. It's amazing at the same time. Like you look at your little baby's face and their eyes, and then everything kind of melts away. And the fact that you haven't slept in 3 months is totally fine. And I always tell people who are now pregnant, I'm like, listen, it is one of the most challenging, but one of the most life-altering, incredible things that the most life-altering thing you'll ever experience.
I totally agree. And I will say those early months are definitely a blur 10 years in. But, so many people, I've been in this mom space, a parenting editor for just as long as my kids, have been around. And so many women that I speak to are so helped by people like you, celebs that are like sort of work to destigmatize like all this, all the stuff that comes with postpartum, whether anxiety, depression. I'm wondering, have you been helped? I know you mentioned you have other people in your community, but I'm wondering, have other celebs sort of inspired you to be more open about your postpartum journey?
I think not even necessarily celebs, but just I think influencers, I guess, like celebs in their own right. But just I think there's one of the positive things that have come out of the TikToks and the Instagrams and social media world is that people are being a lot more open and honest. Like I literally just saw something that I sent to my mom and said I literally cried, and it was this video about how difficult it was and how exhausted she was and how this baby literally can only see you and you are their whole world, and it just puts everything in perspective. And so I'm like, even stuff like that, just having those reminders that you are not the first, you are not the last, it will be okay, and that it is a challenging time has been very helpful. And also I think having friends that you feel, or like surrounding yourself with people that you feel comfortable sharing with, because I kind of, initially, I think there's this innate, for me at least, feeling of like, I wanted to be able to just handle it all. Like I was, we've been doing this for forever and you're supposed to be able to figure it out. And that's just not the truth. Like there is so much truth to it takes a village, and the world that we live in now, we aren't surrounded by our village. Generally our families, like we've moved and we're all over the place and we're working. And so I think finding whatever your community may be, whether it's online, whether it's your family, whatever that may be, I think is so crucial. It's so important. That's why honestly part of the reason I wanted to partner with Tommy Tippy was because they did their Truth Is campaign, and I thought it was so wonderful that they're kind of normalizing these conversations around this like very intense impact that the fourth trimester has on moms, and allowing, you know, anybody to come and be vulnerable and open and honest and have these real conversations. Cause it's really lonely if you don't have some kind of, you know, place to go like that, where people are being open and honest.
Absolutely. I really do love the shift that brands like Tommy and Tibby are taking toward that, you know, open, honest, you know, conversation. Speaking of, you're planning an Ask Me Anything. I want to hear about it because I mean, and you know, in that first, I mean, I think I like to consider like the postpartum period, like anytime after having a baby, but certainly in those first few months, one of the challenges is really like, how are we feeding this baby? And
Yeah.
so I know that's partly why we're here talking today. So tell me about the Ask Me Anything, the partnership, and, you know, challenges that you may have been facing.
Yeah, so I'm actually excited about the Ask Me Anything, because I think, you know, sometimes I think getting asked maybe those uncomfortable conversations is going to be so important for somebody else to be able to hear. And I think, you know, for me, being able to help anyone that's in my position, I'm here for it. But yeah, with Tommy Tippy specifically, so listen, I had a not great experience with feeding my child. My breastfeeding journey was really frustrating. It was one of the things early on that I thought, I was like, this is going to break me. Like, this is it. It had such an impact on me physically and mentally, emotionally. And I'm really excited to be able to speak about that and talk about how, you know, Tommy Tippy now has an in-bra wearable breast pump that really changed the game for me. And honestly, I feel like, I don't know this, but I feel like it was like made by a mom for moms. Because I started out and I didn't have, my baby wouldn't latch correctly and it was painful. I didn't have the right flange size. So I was pumping with the wrong size. It was extremely painful. So that whole experience, I was just like in tears and had anxiety around it. And then finally got the right sizes, but it was still really like, I felt very lonely in that process, because, you know, it takes sometimes 2.5, 3 hours out of your day if you're pumping to be able to give your baby a bottle for someone to be able to feed them. And so I kind of like got to that point and felt a little, yeah, I didn't resent my husband for it, but like it was that thing where I was just like, gosh, this is so like the moments that I have to myself, I'm now stuck and tethered to this wall. And then you enter in this wearable breast pump and it gives you back your time and it gives you back, I think, your freedom, and it takes away some of that pressure around what breastfeeding is. And I think it's so brilliantly done. I think the fact that, you know, they have something called constant comfort tech, which is now they really mimic the sucking of a baby and what it's like, so that you're not having to like such a harsh transition from your baby to a pump machine. You can actually feed your baby straight from the bottle that it pumps in. So you put a nipple in it, which is like, for me, I'm already traveling, is insane and incredible. And I don't know, I just think they kind of thought of everything. And for me, you know, I think unless you're in this position, it might be hard to understand just how important those things are. But it made a world of a difference for me. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I love what you said about kind of feeling tethered. I mean, because these kind of pumps were not around when my kids were in their newborn stage, and I exclusively pumped. So I remember feeling like super touched out, and then like now I just have to sit here. Like,
Yeah.
so I love that. Can you tell us some of the things? I mean, I don't want to get super personal, but like I think people want to know how this pump works. Like, can you wash dishes? Can you like, I don't know. I mean, can you like,
Yeah.
what can you do?
You can like, I've tried everything. You can literally do it. I did a plank in it the other day. I have this machine called the DB method, which is a squat machine. And like, I now kind of, it's like my time a little bit. So I put it in front, like I literally set up in front of the TV with this, you know, squat machine and pump while it's happening. And it's my 20 minutes to like, I feel like I've gotten my me time back. But you can also, you know, you can do dishes, you can wash laundry, you can walk your dog, you can go to the park with your baby, you can do it. I've used it at the airport. A lot, again, is a really big one for me, because for whatever reason, my child, she doesn't want to breastfeed on an airplane. She just wants the bottle. And, you know, and you need to make sure that their ears pop. So they need to be sucking on something. And so again, for me to have like fresh milk and know that there's something there for her has been really, really helpful. But the sky's kind of the limit on what you can do. You can go, it depends how comfortable you are, but I'm kind of like, it's here, I'm using it. You know, it goes, you put a shirt over it, you get your nails done. So whatever you want.
I love it. I love
You. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned this is a little off track, but I have the DB method machine, and I would recommend it to women postpartum because
Oh yeah.
I know it's not only good for like the backside, but I felt it's like tightens up your core. So that's just a side note. If you're, it's
Oh
really,
my God, no. I did a whole pelvic floor series with them because I learned how important the pelvic floor is and how a lot of times we're, again, just now starting to pay attention to these things. And so, yeah, ladies, pay attention to your pelvic floor before, during, and after your pregnancy.
yeah. And also, I know that fitness and wellness and health is really important to you. And I think I'm just curious personally, and I know what a lot of our audience is going to want to know this too. What has been that shift? What does wellness, fitness look like for you now that you have a 4-month-old? I know it's just a huge transition.
Yeah, it's different. It all looks different. For me, it was really important because I've been an athlete my entire life. And so now coming back after giving birth, I really wanted to give myself grace, as hard as that is when you're in the moment. And really, again, focus on reconnecting the muscles between my pelvic floor and my glutes, and making sure that I recreate that base, because a lot of it really does go away. Like trying to re-engage my abs after was not easy. Everything is just harder. And so for me, it's been kind of going like, listen, you're not going to be back where you were, and maybe you'll be there a year from now. Like that's kind of what my goal is. So now instead of setting these like really intense mini goals, I look at kind of what do I want to be in a year, and how do I want to effectively be able to get there safely. And then also, not put so much pressure on it, because what's really important here is your child and having that time. I think, I've been told over and over and over again, you don't get this time back. They will never need you this much again. Like, I know it seems super intense right now. And it is when they're very mom centric. But they need you. And I think if you can, giving them that time, in the long run, you're going to look back and be super happy that you did. So for the first time in my life, fitness is kind of on a little bit on the back burner.
Yeah. And, speaking of, spending all this time with your little one, what are some of your favorite things to do with Kingsley? And I mean, what is she responding to? Like, what is she like?
She loves the mirror right now, which is hilarious. She giggles in front of the mirror, so we do mirror time. My favorite though, like I have she's really sweet in the morning. So she like opens her eyes and she sees me and she just has this big grin on her face, and it's like it just melts your heart. Doesn't matter if it's like 4 a.m. I'm like, oh, this is, these are the moments that are so incredible. And then we do a nighttime routine. So like from 6:30 to 8, we do we do stories, we do bath time, and she's kind of really, you can see that she craves that now and has gotten used to it, and it's very fun. But I don't know, man, every day is kind of, she's in that stage too, where I think every day it's like a new skill or something different, or she's like, today she stood up, like she's holding on to a little like poof, but kind of like can stand up and hold herself now. And I'm like, oh my God, it's incredible.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. I love seeing you so excited about this. I mean, any mother, it's such a joy for me to kind of like experience it again through the eyes of people. Cause again, I'm like a decade out, but, to wrap things up, Ashley, I would love to know, because our readers and our listeners, we are so product centric, right? But there's so much stuff out there. So if you could tell us maybe 2 or 3 things that maybe surprised you that you can't live without, or that you would recommend to another new mom. And of course, we know the Tommy Tippy pumps on there, but if we could do anything, you could include.
Okay, so Tommy Tippy also has, we're going to go through a couple of Tommy Tippy products because I just love them as a brand. They have a nighttime pacifier, which is huge because she right now needs a pacifier at night. And then when it falls out, she cries, and it's in the middle of the night. You can't find anything. So a nighttime glow in the dark pacifier is a must. I think I also have their blackout curtains, which is huge for travel. I have a weighted, like zip kind of, like a weighted blanket basically for her, and that's been really like calming for her, so I recommend doing that. And then we also there's a ton of variations on this, but we have like a little stuffed animal that you click the heel and it creates like stars on the ceiling, and it's a really nice way to get them to just like be still for a moment and start kind of calming down before bedtime. So those ones definitely. I think any kind of like child wrap carrier. I have the like Bugaboo, I think is what it's called. It's like an Australian brand, but it's like, a wrap, a sling.
Yeah.
super important because again, like they just want to be on you all the time. I could probably go on for hours. There's so many things that I'm just like, you find the thing and you're like, why didn't I know about this before?
Right.
But also every baby's so different. So it really just depends, right? Like I would say don't give up also if you know, one thing doesn't quite work for your child, like there's going to be something out there. Cause she kind of went through a couple of things where like someone said, I love this so much. And she was like, yeah, no, thanks. Not interested.
That's awesome. But okay, final question, because we talked a lot about feeding and we did mention that feeding our children, you know, when they're young could actually be very emotionally stressful for moms. What would you tell a mom who's really not feeling in a great place about her feeding journey right now?
I would say if you have not talked to, like if you're having any kind of issue, talk to a lactation specialist. It's the best. I mean, they're so specific and there's tiny little tweaks that you can make that made a world of difference. So I ended up doing that, which was where I learned that I didn't have the right size flanges. And just the way you're holding your child makes a difference. There's certain things you can eat that makes a difference on your milk production. But also that I think there is no wrong way to feed your child. I think people just really love to tell you that you're doing something wrong if it's not what they did. But like if you need to give your baby formula, give your baby formula. If you need to, I don't know if you can go half-seas, go half-seas. If you want to feed them out of bottle, do whatever. Like I gave my kid a bottle pretty instantly, and most people were like, oh no, you know, she's never going to go back to your breast. And she goes back and forth seamlessly. Like I think try and get as much information you can from a lactation specialist, which you can get to go through your insurance, so you don't have to pay for it, but then take the pressure off, you know, and just figure out what works for you and your baby. Because I think once I stopped going like, she needs to sleep like this, she needs to eat like this, everything became a lot easier and I cried a lot less.
That is priceless advice. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. And tell us where we can find out more information about the products.
Yes, so you can just go to Tommy Tippy's website and they have everything on there. They also sell on Walmart.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you.
Yes, likewise.